Join us now at endextinction.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us, a lot of ways to get your commentary, your questions, all the stuff that you kind of want to get out of a program like this, your thoughts, opinions, experiences, questions, all that good stuff about the things that affect us here in the Borderland, and of which there's a lot more to get into here today. So comments over on the social media can do throughout the show. We'll be opening up those phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we often do. Bunch of stuff we're talking about here today, both state significance, national significance. That baby formula story ain't going nowhere. But then also border security issues like that coming back into focus here today after, well, again, it's hard to put an exact number or figure on it, but, well, let's just say a lot of newer or, well, even novel smuggling attempts going on in the region lately, even including daily pickups and interdictions happening at the ports of entry. So that's just at the places where there is the heaviest security, among other things. But then also a case that happened a little bit earlier this week, but that's been kind of on the back burner, that might put some of, well, Governor Greg Abbott's Texas-based border security efforts into sharper focus, a first courtroom win that may, well, shape the rest of the whole program that he's doing, specifically, again, on the state level enforcement beyond just the, well, physical presence and security, the actual legal system and implications he's using with that. So we'll get into that a whole lot more as we have John Hertz chiming in with us, unhappy with the administration, baby formula and such as well, that we'll definitely get into here. Flaca Jimenez, Monica Cervantes dropping those likes. We do appreciate it because it all helps with, the algorithmic stuff and just, continuing the mission of having live local talk radio here in the Borderland, because no one else is going to talk about the issues that affect us here like we are. And so, yeah, the baby formula definitely, even the, administration chiming in on that today, as you heard right at the top of the hour there. And sure, there are some concerns, particularly from the state level. Again, all of this is pretty well intertwined. But specifically, Texas Governor Greg Abbott calling out the use of baby formula for, well, those immigration and border security purposes, essentially saying that that's part of the problem. Don't necessarily disagree with that. The idea that some of it being used in that line is therefore, well, using up supply. That's undeniable. Supply being used elsewhere. But I kind of feel like it's a little bit of the whole Ukraine and gas situation and Russia saying that, well, that's the cause of it here, is kind of ignoring the systematic issues that were coming up before this. There have been recalls. There's at least one plant shut down that I think Abbott's, no relation here, the company Abbott, same spelling as far as I'm aware, though, so life is weird sometimes, saying that they're hopefully going to be getting one of their plants back online here. Again, that's the one in Michigan that we talked about yesterday, but those timelines are not simple. They will take time for it to get back on the store. So in the meantime, I know also at the top of the hour there being talked about, well, that, there's scalping essentially going on. That's not the right phrase. It's price gouging, but I feel the same way about it either way you want to talk about it. So if anyone else is having issues out there and getting with it, if you're, don't trust everything you see online. If it sounds too good to be true, probably is. But there's a whole lot more to get into that here. Accused of making excuses for Biden. No, this is very much a problem. And RJ commenting, 2 months for Abbott here. Look, the border situation has been in that way, in this regard, baby formula-wise, increasing, but not certain jumps that would outstrip the supply. There are a lot of other issues going to here. So as much as it's comfortable to point out one problem, one issue here, well, it's just simply not the reality. So sure, you mad at the administration all you want about this, but just saying that therefore fix this and all the problems will be solved is not how this works either. Again, as fun as that might be for you. So Flocky Meadows, among other things, Putin would have never invaded Ukraine had we been supplying gas to Europe. Yes and no. I mean, that's getting a little bit more into Friday territory on the free-for-all kind of side of things. But let's just say control over the territory regardless was, I mean, if you want, you got to think more like a Soviet, heck, more of like a Russian empire when you're talking about how what Putin is doing and what his true goals are. So control of territory, I mean, this goes back to 2014, even beyond, when you're talking about the switch in elections, the Maidan Square, and the kind of soft revolution that seemed there. But I mean, yeah, just make an allusion to it, not necessarily a focus here for today, but yeah, fair is fair. Some more comments coming in here. John Hurt saying that Abbott needs to ignore the courts like Biden is doing. It's against federal law to protest at Supreme Court justices' residences here. Yeah, as we've talked about that before, and or referring to then the whole Roe v. Wade situation, which was, of course, dominated this weekend, previous week, and major national issues involving with judges. Like, sure, elected officials, government officials are often ripe for, well, redress of the wrongs and protest there for them. But judges is something that I learned from a young age, not through personal experience, but rather learning from those who had more experience than me, that you just, you don't mess with it. You just don't. Because that's I've got, even in court cases that I wasn't directly involved in, reporting on rather, getting redressed by a judge because of some perceived slight that happened, and getting not exactly threatened with contempt, but being told that I was quite displeased with something that I hadn't even done. But yeah, you just don't mess with judges. That's something I definitely learned at. RJ also commenting, just read that the El Paso sector is seeing 1,000+ encounters a day. That more or less fits here. And one of the specific things I wanted to bring up along those lines is beyond even the encounters, the smuggling attempts. And so this happens in a wide variety of ways, of course, because it's not just across the border, people trying to, I mean, ease of access is often a major concern when you're bringing across or wanting to bring across large amounts of goods, particularly, well, drugs. I know fentanyl has been something we focused on a lot lately, but there was actually a great article over from Border Report pointing out that there have been almost over the last week, almost daily seizures of multiple pounds or multi-$1,000s worth, including 0.28 pounds of fentanyl on May 3rd. They mentioned May 5th, May 6th, May 7th, April 30th. So it's just been decently constant. And then from our news partner over there at KFOX 14, a more novel way of it seeming to be smuggled again directly in this area here lately. Just the article title here: CBP officers seize cocaine from woman enrolled in the Sentry program at El Paso Port of Entry. So this is supposed to be one of those rapid access programs, pre-screened. And, well, this wasn't exactly a, oops, I didn't realize this was it. It was just shy of 20 pounds of cocaine. Again, the Sentry is setting for a secure electronic network for travelers, rapid inspection lane. I mean, might get the fast pass kind of thing to go for that. And so someone trying to smuggle through this, thinking that they'd get through scot-free, well, sorely mistaken in this case. CBP saying that yes, they do have screening methods, maybe a bit sped up, because these people are supposed to be essentially vetted to be able to get into this. Not sure if it's a full background check. Not actually gone through it myself here, so I can't comment directly on the paperwork, but supposed to be not a rando kind of situation, being able to be known and therefore able to go through lessened security, but still security nonetheless, as then this was found in multiple bundles hidden within the dashboard area. So again, a hard thing to pin down exactly if this is more, if this is happening an increased amount, because, I mean, we've had a particular week of it here, but kind of plays into the idea that we're going back to maybe more traditional, so to speak. Traditional sounds weird in this case, but old school, maybe a better way to put it, forms of transmission and smuggling going on here, with less of just showing up the border, like has been happening with the human situation and people being brought to the border and dropped off. And there was another incident of someone being left behind after apparently having tried to scale the border fence a little bit earlier this week, left at the fence itself with a disabled leg. Not sure if it was quite broken or not, but had to get medical attention. So that kind of thing and this situation, people just trying to sneak things and people through, does seem to be, at least to my eye, on an increased incidence here. Maria Coleman saying that, saying talking about it for a few days on Facebook, that there's a correlation between the shortage of baby formula and the border surge. CBP has released current photos of pallets of baby formula and disposable diapers at processing centers. Some has been sent to Ukraine. No infant should be used as a political pawn. Okay, I'll fully agree with you that on there. I mean, this is something that is coming out and increasingly being discussed about. Again, Governor Greg Abbott chiming in on that particular issue today. That doesn't seem to be too much of a difference, though, in the actual absolute levels. They've been stocking up more and therefore contributing to the shortage. Probably going to be an issue. But again, the main source of it in my mind comes from, well, domestic production problems, which also, if ignored, going to continue to cause problems. And Derek Araujo commenting from Fresno, California, where he's watching from right now. Hey, thanks for tuning in across over there. And a lot more coming in here, a lot more comments as well. Calvin Williams, RJ, John Hertz, John Brazelton, Maria Coleman has said, and Derek Araujo there, and Catherine Cordry just chiming in. We got a lot more we're going to be talking about. So coming out of this break, we'll talk more about this, including some of the efforts that, well, outside of formula and issues related to it, that the Abbott administration has been working on, and, well, a court case that may give extra little bit fuel to their fire of their state level, essentially, border security attempt. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Whole lot more we'll get to. Comments coming in. So again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are the places to find that and leave those. Otherwise, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stop and go traffic on the 10 eastbound between Aircraft and Thorne is going to set you back about 5-minute delays. On the 10 Gateway westbound at Copia, a stalled vehicle's blocking the left shoulder there and causing a little bit of a slowdown. On Border Highway northbound at Zaragoza, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, and an accident reported Wrestler Drive southbound after Belvedere. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
From the host of the hit true crime podcast Dr. Death and Bad Batch comes a brand new unbelievable story. Sympathy Pains investigates the shocking tale of one woman, a former nurse, who spent nearly 20 years faking illnesses and tragedies until her victims confronted her on national television.
Sarah DeLashmit told people she had leukemia or muscular dystrophy, even Ebola. She knew enough to be convincing, but it was all a lie.
Listen to Sympathy Pains on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Economists are warning that sanctions against Russia could trigger devastating inflation, worse than the current 40-year highs. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to protect your savings right now with a gold IRA through Birch Gold, the only company I trust for gold. Just text the word SECURE to 989898 to get a free info kit on how to protect your savings with gold. So text the word SECURE to 989898.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those here. And a lot of stuff we're talking about here today, a lot of people chiming in on those pages. Calvin Williams, John Brazelton, Kathy Codry, Maria Coleman, Derek Arajo, saying that right, RJ, and Flaco Jimenez, and more dropping those likes, which we do appreciate. Calvin Williams, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes. We got a lot of stuff that we'll be getting to within a lot of this whole 2 hours here today. But something I wanted to speak about specifically is that, well, border security has been kind of not exactly, every time I say it's backburnered, it comes roaring back here. So I didn't want to let it get to that point here, because there has been a bunch simmering in the background pretty much this whole time. Specifically, when it comes to a lot of these state level efforts, there has been at least one significant court case that might, in its own way, not exactly counteract, but, make it a little bit, dealing with some of the legal issues that have been coming up when it comes to an individual state dealing with what is otherwise a pretty much prescribed national issue. But the contention still being held by Texas Governor Greg Abbott and other, particularly border governors, is that there is not much enforcement coming along with this from the federal government. So feeling the need to step in here, and that very much bolstered that argument this week as, I'll just read the headline here from the Texas Tribune from earlier this week. A minor trespassing case gives Governor Greg Abbott's border initiative its first courtroom win. Now, minor being used here, at least to my mind, in the sense of technically a misdemeanor, because from the state level, they allow laws that are allowed to be enforced here because, state level actors cannot enforce federal laws unless they have some kind of agreement here. And that's been one of the big issues. So, of course, the legal standpoint that Governor Greg Abbott has seized upon for most of the backing and legal justification for Operation Lone Star, the state level border security effort, has been along the lines of that state trespassing hold. And so that's why much of his plan has ended up being called and referred to as catch and jail. Because, of course, some other things he's done that has kind of fallen by the wayside in most public attention has been what he is doing with, some of these state-level jails, some of them getting cleared out and kind of like not too far from the Del Rio area, if I'm remembering correctly, and even then other facilities kind of nearby border sectors. And that is something that is, this is what he was relying on the legal justification for. And there have been even just within one county here, 3,000 men in Kinney County, and I do believe that is where this court case was then taking place. And just to put it in perspective here, in the 1,600-person town in Kinney County that had even saw some shortages being reported on, again, by Texas Tribune, that local businesses, as there were enough called into the jury selection process, settling on 6 that ended up finding the actual defendant in this specific case, Lester Hidalgo Aguilar, was actually convicted on the charges of state trespass. Again, a technically misdemeanor, but again, a very important part of this for Abbott's whole plan here is that this is the justification he'll then use to hold and keep people and do the state level enforcement. Primarily, the legal justification is important here, but the actual follow through with it is kind of the minor part of Abbott's plan, because really it's just the interdictions is what very clearly he's most interested in, stopping people and having reason and justification to do so. This is still pretty significant to them, and also is noted by the Texas Tribune, of the about 3,000 that have been arrested just in this county on these charges, already 860 have pled guilty. So that's why this court case, though minor in its own technical, the significance coming out of it, probably a bit more than that. So this moving forward, particularly since prior to this, there was at least one case from a federal judge here in El Paso, I do believe, or state level judge, actually misspoke there, saying that there was, no justification for some of them to be held, though they got kicked up to a higher level, still pending there as of last check. And there was also then actually a federal case filed saying that they were being unlawfully detained by this, suing Greg Abbott in federal court, seeking that $5 million in damages that we did speak about previously. So this case moving forward significant in its own right, both for the challenges that have already started coming to it and just for the ability to continue using it as the justification for Abbott's plan to keep this going here. So being able to do this, Kelvin Williams saying, why not put them in jail? We have to pay for them anyways. I mean, again, it's a difference on, essentially the agency in charge, because when we're talking about the state level, they are not doing the same. Well, they can't do the same kind of authorization for travel while pending future court dates kind of thing that happens in the otherwise referred to catch and release system. Still hate the phrase, but not better one that I've been able to come up with to describe what it is, because that's kind of essentially how it works. So, I mean, yeah, there is, of course, some expenditures in that, but not so much in the long-term housing in general. Again, there are a lot of, the varieties of situations that have been happening across this whole swath of issue sometimes boggle the mind, because we've got these two different levels of enforcement that are happening here, the state and the federal, with, of course, most of the issue and concern happening across the country with the federal, though, again, the legal challenges that have happened at the state level, yeah, definitely coming up and being more focused on it here. And so, as we also then talk about the whole formula issue, y'all mentioning in the comments over there, it's somewhat related, though, of course, not seeing as many of the prosecutions or the guilty pleas happening here with, well, the infants we're talking about there, but the unaccompanied minor is still definitely a part of this. But focusing back here on what Governor Greg Abbott is doing, again, the way the progress of this trial, the article there from the Texas Tribune is very interesting, describing the whole process and even the local input on it, those testifying specifically, but then talking about that specific case and this situation. And so the ultimate sentence for this person, Aguilar, mentioned here in the article, sentenced to a year in jail, and then was also declined the fine, a maximum of which would be $4,000. So according to them, he's already served about 8 months of his jail sentence, because he had been in jail unable to post the bond previous, but it's not clear how much he will actually serve in there. So given the length of time it has taken to get to this, sure, it does provide some of the justification behind it, and this may essentially bolster, well, the ability and the backing that Abbott feels and other officials involved in this entire proposal of doing state-level border security have, if they can, again, the bulk of these cases going instead to plea deals, pleading guilty. It's what happens at the end of it that ends up being a little bit more unclear. Do they then hand them off to CBP, ICE, etc., for then expulsion from the country, or what exactly happens? Because, again, not part of the, well, regular federal immigration system and the courts involved in that. So the long term, still a little bit up in the air, but in the short to, again, medium term, I guess you could put it that way, probably going to end up working out in the meantime for, well, at least the short term goals. Everything that you can see having come out of the entire of Governor Greg Abbott's plan can really be seen as, not totally, but seen through the lens of stopgap. When you talk about the whole secondary inspections being done at ports of entry by DPS state troopers previously, in recent weeks, less than a month ago, actually, even though it feels like years ago already, given how fast these issues move, makes a level of sense that this is a stopgap or to then force or find a longer term solution. Now, of course, in that situation with the border inspections, the situation there coming out that there were individual deals made with the accompanying states within Mexico, the northern boundary states sharing the border with Texas, to have them do enhanced security on their end at the state level as well, even if there may have been, some other repercussions with that whole train line that El Paso Wink has some reporting on as of this week here that just titled New Mexico seeks opportunity in Texas border disruptions, and wanting to see that proposed rail line run through Santa Teresa, that TMAC line. So see how that continues to work out, because that's more of an international diplomatic situation that, well, might not have that much impact on this area. In fact, might have more of an impact on this area technically positively. I don't know. That's up for debate, certainly, because if that were coming to Santa Teresa, definitely part of our, well, regional economy here. But so those are just some of the border security and, smuggling and human trafficking issues going on right now. Catherine Caudry suggesting put alligators in the Rio Grande, they make it across, they get a free pass to enter. You know what? On other sections, that interesting proposal, don't think that would work that well here, because, well, until we get that water released, which is coming, but not even necessarily going to be that long. You're going to have a lot of real dry gators and probably not sticking around it here. So again, as often happens, we'll probably have to look at some, shall we say, slightly different solutions for this area. I mean, the ones we're still talking about, again, if you missed some of the special reports from our news partners over there at KFOX 14, even had more focus on some of the technology being deployed. That the one airing earlier this week, talking about the sensors and those mobile sensor towers that they use. One of the stats that actually stuck out to me from that is that they had about 40 to 60 of them, and they're looking to more or less quadruple, if not quintuple, that amount in deployment across the entire border sector coming up, or across the entire border in general, actually, as a matter of fact. So increased resources definitely being seen as needed. I don't think anyone disagrees that there's an issue with the way we are handling border security and border issues writ large, where, of course, the partisan divide seems to come in on this is which aspect to focus on. Is it immigration or is it border security? And, well, we'll see what happens in November, because there's not seeming to be a lot of willpower in the meantime from the current party in power to really, well, do much about it here. Calvin Williams also saying end pandemic restrictions or keep Title 42. You can't have one without the other. See what happens in that place here. I mean, yeah, it is a little bit of a, not quite a catch-22, but I mean, we've even had within the state those that otherwise not usually agreeing with Governor Greg Abbott, of course, his gubernatorial opponent, Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, saying that, well, he agrees that there should not be the removal of Title 42 without something else in place. So, okay, maybe not go 100% agreement, because that's not going to happen in this lifetime, it doesn't seem like. But even just a idea of there being agreement is, well, fascinating to me. Why we keep talking about the politics here. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to get into our interview of the day here, talking about a little bit more about downtown development, shifting gears slightly, what's going on with the rise that you may have seen of the construction in the El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center, talking with the executive director on the progress of that, what that impact might be on downtown, and what you can see in the timeline coming with that soon here. So all that and more coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, a lot of comments over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll get to that and a whole lot more coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Welcome back here to Talk El
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. 4 people suffered minor injuries after a car slammed into a beauty salon in West El Paso this morning. The incident happened at Extreme Salon located at 5200 North Mesa Street at about 10:30. Officials said a woman in her 80s lost consciousness and drove into the business. She was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. A second woman in her 40s who was inside the salon was also taken to the hospital with minor injuries. 2 additional people were taken to hospitals with minor injuries for checkups. And a nationwide shortage of baby formula caused by supply chain bottlenecks, recalls, and the shutdown of a factory has forced parents to go from store to store hoping to find stocked shelves to feed their babies. The formula company Abbott said today a main plant could reopen in 2 weeks if it receives FDA approval. However, it would take at least 6 to 8 weeks for more product to make it to grocery stores and pharmacies. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking El Paso traffic, we're seeing a crash on I-10 eastbound after the Spaghetti Bowl and before Reynolds Street. Stop and go traffic on the I-10 eastbound between Trans Mountain and Thorn. Going to set you back 5-minute delays. Watch for an injury accident Mesa Street at Wrestler and an accident North Loop Drive at North Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After the clouds cleared, temperatures were a bit closer to normal as they climbed into the lower 90s earlier today. Expect mostly clear skies overhead tonight as the breeze settles and temperatures dropping into the middle to upper 50s by early Friday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about trading in these gusty winds for unseasonably hot weather, plus when we could see our first triple-digit day of the year. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Hey, Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess With Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
Are you wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it. My name is Dr. Moira Salaji. I'm the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and over to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital is for children who are at risk for or who have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. With a doctor's referral, you get dietitians, nutrition education, counseling, and more. The Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
If you're on your way home right now, you might have been thinking about, well, what are you going to do for dinner and planning it out, what you have, what you don't have, what you might need to pick up, or even just what the plan might be for the future days. Let me do you a favor and tell you something to make it a little bit more simple. Head over to our friends at Enhanced Flavors to find their great selection, locally available balsamic vinegars, extra virgin olive oils, and flavored olive oils, because these can serve as the base for a lot of flavorful, great dishes made simply and brilliantly by yourself in your own home and around with your family here. So find them online at enhancedflavors.com. Again, that's enhanced with a D, flavors.com, or visit them out in the community. They are often out there at the Upper Valley Arts and Farmers Market. Going to be there through September, because that goes on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday. Again, that is happening at the Hobby Lobby parking lot Sundays. That happens off Crossroads near Donovan and Mesa. But again, find them online, find their full selection, 40 different varieties. We love using it in our own house because of the flavors that it gives us and how simple it can make dishes brilliant. Again, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social outlets. We're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, talking about a lot of issues going on here, but wanted to visit here today actually about something that is coming up here. You may have heard about the El Paso Children's Museum, and may have heard that it has a name for that as well. So actually joining us right now, we do have Barry Van Diemen, the executive director for La Nube, the El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, here, because we have visited sometimes in the past on this and some of our other programming here, but anyone who has been by downtown lately, particularly, going straight through past the ballpark or anywhere around the area, may have been seeing that rising structure, that actual, the name that they're hearing there, La Nube, the cloud, that shape, that distinctive shape is already taking its own shape, even just within the framing.
Yeah, you can see the construction. It's really, really exciting. It's such a signature piece of architecture that's rising downtown. And the cloud shape, the building, as you might have noticed, it looked tall and narrow, but now it's widening. They built it in 2 phases vertically in order to maneuver a crane around the area. So it's very exciting to see the whole thing come together.
Yeah, La Nube, the shape of imagination, another way to put it here. And people can see all the information on this at lanube.org. And I know that people, particularly of, maybe my generation, a little bit older, may have remembrances of, well, the idea of a children's museum that has been missing for, well, some years now. And so just kind of refresh for people who may not be familiar with it, when it comes to the idea of what will be going into this entire facility, what are some of the major focuses that people, really should know about?
Yeah, there's a strong focus within the exhibit experiences on STEM, on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we added the arts to that in the integration of those science and technology topics with the arts. The exhibits are on 4 floors. There's a signature piece that is called the Anything's Possible Climber, which really engages kids. And adults are allowed to go in too, but it engages kids' body and mind in a climber that reaches all the way up the whole structure. The other exhibits areas focus on a variety of topics. One on just water and how we use it in our everyday lives. Another on weather. Another on cities and how various forces affect the cities, such as the wind that we experience here in El Paso, earthquakes, and other forces.
So, of course, we've had somewhat, calling anything similar here does seem to be kind of missing the scope of this new facility and the expansiveness of it. But for those that are then thinking about, we've had some conversations lately about, public expenditures, developing downtown and all of that beyond the actual, what people will get when they come to the facility. What are some of the expectations about the impact that this will have in the area, either on, education, visitors, or development in general of downtown and for the city at large?
Yeah, well, those who travel to other cities, that museums like this, children's museums and science centers, and sort of this hybrid model of a children's museum and science center are really significant parts of the educational ecosystem within those cities. And that's what you can expect here in El Paso, that experiences kids have outside of the classroom are really important to their overall learning and for even for adults, for lifelong learning. So it becomes a very important part of the educational ecosystem within the city. Over the economic impact on a city is significant as well. We'll be a major employer in downtown, and people will come far and wide, parking in the parking lots around the building, and spending money downtown, which makes the center an economic driver.
Absolutely. Here again, joining us right now is Barry Van Diemen, Executive Director for La Nube, the El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center. If you want to find anything more about them, lanube.org. That's LA-NUBE.org. We can find it there. And one of the things that you got going on right now, among other things, is a donation drive for, parts of what is being constructed at the moment, including your Reach for the Clouds campaign. What is that current initiative?
Yeah, we have had some very generous gifts from major gifts in order to build this. This is a combination of a contribution from the city, but also from private contributions. And the recent campaign, Reach for the Clouds, is an effort to allow a broader part of the community to contribute and be recognized within the center. There's an opportunity right now for $250 to have your name or your family's name inscribed and placed underneath that Anything's Possible climber. And that campaign is underway. People are giving generously. And when we reach the full number of names that we can fit within that inscription, then we're going to end the campaign, and that'll probably be somewhere mid-July.
Okay, so of course, talking about the progression here and the shape the building is literally taking shape here right now, what is the kind of timeline we're looking at now? Of course, the last time we spoke, the name itself was about to be revealed, and there were some expectations about what the time frames for the completion will be. What is that expectation now, as you say, and describe that the building is continuing to be built out and really being able to see more in what its final form is likely to be?
Yeah, well, if you drive past downtown, you see that things are at a really fast pace right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are expecting that early 2023 will open. We had hoped to do it by the end of 2022, but supply chain issues, like everyone's experiencing with steel and other materials, prevented that from happening. But we're pushing ahead, and early 2023 is our goal.
Okay, so again, that's the expectation here. And in terms of, you mentioned some of the exhibits and some of the permanent things here. Just looking on the website, some of the other possibilities do seem to be, educational spaces. Classroom and adjacent things, lab type areas. And will there also be the possibility for traveling exhibits? Is that a part of the current vision for this whole facility?
Yeah, there's a space that we have to welcome in traveling exhibits to the area, and we'll be looking at that down the road. But there's going to be so much for everybody to enjoy with the permanent exhibits that we're putting in right now. We have a firm in California, Gyroscope, who's designed all of these experiences after interviews in the community. And Cubic Maltby is a fabrication firm, works with a lot of museums across the country, and they will be installing the exhibits beginning late summer. The installation will start.
Oh, okay. So we're already on the fast track here for a lot of this. So in terms of the rest of the progression here, and we talked about one specific way the community can still get involved and donate for this. Are there any other particular things that you would want people to know as they're seeing this progression or seeing the things, again, continue to take shape, that they should know as we then look forward to that potential opening date here in early 2023?
Well, I would like to make it clear that this is really a collaboration between the city, the El Paso Community Foundation, and partners across the community, generous funders, and we want everybody to be a part of that. It takes a lot of investment to build a facility like this, and it takes a lot of investment to continue to operate it. But we will have a solid business model, and we will find ways to make it accessible to people of all incomes across the region. And across the country. We hope to attract some visitors to El Paso.
Absolutely here. So on that note, are there any expectations at this point, what it might, the cost, the entry fee, any kind of that thing, or is it still a little bit too premature at this point?
Yeah, it's a bit premature. We have some consultants helping us with that, about attendance, about pricing, but no matter where we end up, we will have programs that make it accessible for those who are underserved in the community.
Absolutely here. Again, a guest right now has been Barry Van Diemen, the executive director for La Nube, the Children's Museum and Science Center. Again, any information on what we've been talking about here and for updates as more things come out here, la-nube.org. That's la-nube.org is the website to find out about that, the donation, everything that is planned and coming up here. So, Barry, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today about this, the current plans, and what people can expect here before too long here today.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely here. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about the issues affecting us here in the Borderland. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Copia Street, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. I-10 eastbound is slow. Stop-and-go traffic from Trans Mountain to Thorn with 7-minute delays. Accident reported Lee Trevino northbound at Rojas and a crash North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Make the right choice for your house when it comes to windows and doors. The Window Depot provides over 1,000 in-stock vinyl windows, interior and exterior doors, plus all the supplies you'll need for installation and trim to complete the job, all at the lowest prices in town. Visit thewindowdepot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindowdepot.com. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
On the new true crime podcast Betrayal, a woman chronicles her fairy tale romance gone horribly wrong. When her seemingly perfect husband's secret life is uncovered, it destroys her marriage, shakes their community, and ultimately sends him to prison.
Going through Spence's emails, Snapchat, whatever I could get my hands on. Just a punch in the gut every single time.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. Go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do during this point in the program, most days anyway. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Getting accused of using a particular voice here by Calvin Williams. Not sure I totally follow you on using a sexy voice during that interview, but well, if it works for you, well, good to know, I guess. Some other comments coming in here, a lot of them coming on over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, which are places you can get us throughout the program here. Robbie Flores, RJ, Catherine Codry, John Brazelton, and more tuning in, chiming in over on those ways. Talking about us a little bit earlier. And just some of the interesting points being made there. RJ saying, Beto and Abbott finding common ground. Virgin Mary appears on Ladies Burrito. And Catherine Codry appreciating that comment there. I mean, yeah, anytime that we see some significant enough events, Kevin once told me to play it back and I'll see what he's talking about here. Again, you do you, and I'll keep doing me. But yeah, the fact that we have such a situation with the border security issues, that we have literally polar opposites on, like, pick an issue and you're going to find a completely different, almost diametrically opposed take, particularly when it comes to these gubernatorial candidates that will be still dealing with all the way through November here. It's going to be an interesting ride towards that time here. But just as a minor soapbox moment here, of course, we do have those primary runoff elections setting up a lot of the other races that are going to be coming up on this ballot, including several local ones. So mark your calendars. May 16th, this coming Monday, is the start of early voting there. I'm not going to procrastinate myself. I'm going to get out there during early voting because I waited till Election Day for this past one and wasn't exactly swamped, which, okay, was good for me personally, though bad for, like, all of us, I guess you should say. because with that many people voting, well, it's not at all a good sign. But we also got that election day on May 24th. So just mark your calendars for that here because, yeah, on just the whole border security issue, the idea of there not being much in place. I mean, heck, there's been, more than a little bit of criticism from O'Rourke of Abbott's plan on how he has actually been doing the whole Operation Lone Star, but even finding any common ground in this era of almost, I'm not going to say unprecedented lack of bipartisanship because we've had a literal civil war that happened. You can't get much less bipartisan than that. But seriously, like in terms of non-armed conflict, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a more just completely split time in our modern history. Again, you want to go back and find literal armed conflicts, our history in general is chock full of that. So I'm not going to say that this is beyond the pale of what could even possibly happen, but still, to still be somewhat functioning, in quotes, air quotes here if you can't see us over on the video. It's, well, anyone being in control totally seems to be the only thing anything gets done here, which will, again, implications for the midterms and all the other issues we've been talking about are certainly at front of mind on that. Catherine Codry mentioning her candidate here, Irene Armendariz-Jackson, for Congress. That is going to be, again, on the November ballot because that race settled. That's not one of the ones that'll be on this primary runoff ballot. But yeah, that'll be one of the many challenges, depending on where you live, because you also may recall that an increasing part of El Paso County is now within the Texas 23rd Congressional District, which involves, well, Tony Gonzalez, the other Gonzalez, the one that I didn't quite call our city manager yesterday, Congressman Tony Gonzalez from the Texas 23rd. Are they saying that me standing in line to vote? I mean, I haven't had to stand in many over the past few years. I'd love the chance to get in a stand in a line to vote because, well, we just don't get that many people out here. I mean, I used to think, I go to early voting because it's so much simpler. Well, it's about all the same. So just go vote in general. It's truly not that hard. That's going to take us through this next break right now. Again, we do have that phone line open if you're wanting to call in and chime in that way. That number to do so, again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll get to those calls, more comments, and a whole lot more coming out of this break at the top of the hour in the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 10 Gateway westbound at Copia Street, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. I-10 eastbound is slow. Stop-and-go traffic from Trans Mountain to Thorn with 7-minute delays. Accident reported Lee Trevino northbound at Rojas and a crash North Loop Drive at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of intruder most people aren't aware of until it's too late. Home title thieves. When a criminal transfers your home title to a fake identity and steals your title, no one will notify you. Not the police, not even your bank. Sadly, people find out when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, or the eviction notice comes. That's when the legal nightmare begins. You need Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. For just pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. Cyber technology has made it easy for criminals to steal your home. Home Title Lock alerts you if your home becomes their target. Make sure you're not already a victim. Go to mytitlelock.com and for a limited time, get your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value, free with sign up. Just go to mytitlelock.com. That's mytitlelock.com.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late.
Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and the half. traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki says President Biden is promising full help in ensuring that baby formula is safe and available across the country.
President Biden spoke with retailers and manufacturers, including the CEOs of Walmart, Target, Reckitt, and Gerber, to call on them to do more to help families purchase infant formula.
Psaki said the president will use every tool available to the government to alleviate the crisis. Meantime, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is lashing out at the federal government at buying up baby formula to feed illegal immigrants at a time when store shelves are bare. In a statement, he said that American children deserve to be put first. Wall Street is closing with stocks mixed as the sell-off based on inflation fears continues for the most part. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is now at 6 straight days of losses. The big Ukraine aid package is in limbo in the Senate. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Kentucky Republican Rand Paul of single-handedly holding up the roughly $40 billion bill. Schumer said Paul is demanding some changes in the bill. Schumer and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell offered to allow a vote on a Paul amendment, which would likely fail. 60% of California is now in extreme drought. Jack Cronin has more.
The portion of the state in extreme drought status, the second worst level, has gone from 40% to 60% in the last week. And while there are no exceptional drought categories in California, 95% of the state is in severe or extreme drought now. San Diego County continues to be in the 5% of California in moderate drought, but the entire state is in some sort of drought status.
A new congressional report shows meatpacking companies worked with Trump administration officials to keep plants open during the pandemic despite unsafe conditions. The companies mentioned in the report include Foster Farms and Tyson Foods. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. California Governor Gavin Newsom is proposing a multi-million-dollar reproductive health package to prepare for the increase of people from out of state looking for abortions. Here's Dina Kodiak.
That means California taxpayers would help pay for abortions, and they're already doing so through the Medicaid program, a health insurance plan for the poor and disabled. Newsom said on Wednesday $40 million would be allocated as grants for clinics who offer abortions for free. They do so for people who don't qualify for Medicaid and don't have private insurance.
Kentucky Derby winner Rich Strike is skipping the Preakness Stakes. This means Rich Strike will not make an attempt to win the Triple Crown. Owner Rick Dawson said the horse will continue to rest and prepare for the Belmont Stakes, the final leg of the Triple Crown. Rich Strike won the Kentucky Derby last week with the second longest odds ever. A Velociraptor skeleton is hitting the auction block in New York. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
If you've seen Jurassic Park, you're familiar with velociraptors and their ferocious claws and teeth. The one that Christie's is selling is 10 feet long, unearthed in Montana, and said to be the most complete skeleton ever found.
These fossil bones are 110 million years old.
Christie's science expert James Hislop told NBC's Today Show he expects this velociraptor to bring big bucks.
We have a pre-sale estimate of $4 to $6 million on it.
A Broadway theater is installing infrared cameras to prevent viral video and photo leaks. The move by Second Stage Theater comes after the leak on social media of a naked Jesse Williams, who stars in its production of Take Me Out. The new cameras would face the audience and allow theater security to view suspicious activity. The theater objected to the posting of the video, saying it was a gross and unacceptable violation of trust between the actor and audience. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bank. That's bank. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Sure, you can use your phone to call a radio station, but iHeartRadio's revolutionized the way you talk to us. Introducing the TalkBack mic inside the free iHeartRadio app. Here's how to use it. Just listen to your favorite iHeartRadio station on the app. When you have something to say, tap the TalkBack mic and record your message. You can even listen back to make sure your message sounds perfect. After all, it could end up on the radio. Talk to your favorite iHeartRadio stations with one tap, only on the free iHeartRadio app.
iHeartRadio. Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Let's talk about America, not taxes or tweets or the issues that divide us, but how incredible our country is. Whether you come home to a crowded city street or sleepy small town, everyone deserves to live in a clean, green, and thriving community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working with millions of people like you to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Learn more at kab.org. Together, we can do beautiful things.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. All those ways, a lot of comments coming in there throughout the program. Also dropping those likes there. We do have Robbie Flores, Calvin Williams, Flaca Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and more. Also chiming in. Let me know, Calvin Williams, let me know that wasn't the sexy voice. Again, I'll take your word for it here. I'm not my own type, so I don't have a good gauge on that. But Catherine Codry, Robert Flaco Jimenez, RJ, John Brazelton, and more tuning in, chiming in over there a little bit earlier as well. A lot of conversation going on here about the many issues we're talking about here today. Also Maria Coleman, Derek Arajo, and more John Hertz a little bit earlier in the program here. But we do have that phone line open now as well. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call there if you want to chime in that way. A lot of issues going on here. At least one of the things brought up here about the actual congressional maps there. John Brazelton pleading that he's in the 23rd now and mentioning that the only reason he lives in his current congressional district is that he gets to vote against Veronica Escobar every election. I guess if you got a reason to stay in your house and not move, you have more power to you as long as you're working out for you. But okay, as a reminder here of what the current maps are, since you brought it up here, we of course did have that districting change. And even if you search it online, it can be a little hard to find here. So this over on our social media, you can see it right now, is what the current congressional district map is. The portion in the yellowish, this is from the state here, I didn't pick the colors. This is the yellowish, kind of orange yellowish portion. That is the Texas 16 congressional district, currently represented by Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, Democrat. And then there is that pink part that is, well, the huge part of the Texas 23rd congressional district that stretches all the way to the outskirts of San Antonio in the pink there. So that is what the map currently is. And just for reference here, this is what the map previously was. So you can pretty clearly see the difference here to the transition one more time. That is the current the 23rd now takes up the entire eastern and a lot of northeastern section of El Paso County and even the city of El Paso, whereas previously, this being the previous map right now, used to be only basically, once you get past outside of the southern portion of basically bounded by 375 and I-10, the swath south there. So that intersection, and kind of you draw the line right from there all the way to the county line. That's where it used to sit. So again, one more time, previous and now current. So Gonzaga grew quite heavily because, as has been brought up several times here now, even just this week, there was some growth that happened in El Paso County, but not exactly a lot compared to the rest of Texas, which is why you see that increasing bite getting taken out of it. So you might want to be, Calvin Williams saying the new map based on population. Exactly. Because if you don't have the population to support it, they're not really adding new congressmen, new congressional seats these days. It was a thing happening, but you might have heard that whole 538 number. That has not changed because they're not adding new congressional seats. So you may have also heard that Texas got 2 new. It means that other places lost some. It's a slice of pie situation nowadays, as opposed to so many people for, well, such amount of the population. I mean, it still kind of works that way, but it's proportional. So as there's still, the population increases, we are seeing fewer actual representatives representing more and more people. Catherine Coder with opinions on the representation of certain elected officials here. Let you make your own determinations on that. If you ever want to see the full comments and everything going on, because there's more than I can even get to in a show, of course, you can wade into the comments over there. That comment coming over from YouTube, but also Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's one of the major ones where you can see it here. But yeah, so that is population based, because again, the rest of Texas grew slower. Well, El Paso grew slower compared to the rest of Texas, really what I'm trying to say here. So, yeah, that's why, again, just one more time for S's and G's here. Again, previous map, and then you can just see the extra big bite taken out of it to the current map here. Worth looking into, so feel free to refer back to that if you want to. But then again, a whole lot more conversation on the merits and qualifications of certain elected officials here. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Yes, Roberto.
Hi there. What's on your mind?
Can I comment on that formula, baby formula?
Oh, sure.
I don't understand this. You go to any major store here in El Paso, large or small, the shelves are full of dog and cat food and pet items, but then we're running out of formula. I hope we don't run out of doggy food, and then they're going to blame the illegal dogs and cats.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, slightly different manufacturing processes there, but I mean, there's possibilities for shortages about just about anything these days, it does seem like.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
No, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. I mean, yeah, it's concerning, I guess. Okay, I mean, the same way I put it yesterday, I still feel a way about it today. For those that need formula, there is almost no substitute. I mean, I know some have been posting about essentially homemade recipes, and if that works for you, you know what? Fantastic. I am glad that it can work for you. But for others where it doesn't, or they have specific needs, that's one of the specific things that, again, that Abbott plant that keeps getting referenced, in no relation to Governor Greg Abbott, but similar spelling of the name. I wonder if it's a source, similar source of the last name. Anyway, that plant is in Michigan, and it may be allowed to start producing specific, those dietary restrictions that I think someone brought up yesterday. May start there, but it's still going to be a process here. So we probably need to have a refocus on what the heck the state of our infrastructure and supply lines are. We've dipped into it a few times here. There's some varying analysis that goes around the web about what's happening internationally as well, but we probably need to talk more about that and what the actual impact we're seeing in our region, because actually I think at one point there was questions about specific kinds of, pet food, cat food specifically, some of the, I think, more higher end ones in that case, and not general supply. So yeah, the whole baby formula issue still, I mean, I'm no real one in my immediate life that has kids of that age, thankfully. I mean, you're kind of fortunate for them, but I know there are a lot of others that certainly do here. And yeah, the concern about that and how it's being managed, certainly coming up at issue here. But again, we do have those phone lines open. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. I think we got one more call. We'll get into the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew from the West Side.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
I don't know if you saw the New York Post article. Yeah, you know where you can find a lot of baby formula?
What specific area are you thinking about?
They showed hundreds of pallets of baby formula at the immigrant detention center in McAllen, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that point that being made by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, like we referenced a little bit earlier in the program, concerned that supply is then infringing on the overall availability for, the rest of the country, essentially.
Yes, well, according to a CBP spokesperson, there are quite a bit of stores, not only in McAllen, but in several migrant processing centers throughout the Southwest, just to point out.
I mean, that's kind of my expectation with it here. I mean, if there was like constant procurement going on, that'd be one thing. But let's just say that the times that I have had any experience in being even tangentially involved with government procurement, it's not okay, add that to the weekly shopping list. We'll go out and pick up another few or even pallets of cans. It's a lot all at once. So if this has been on hand for a while, again, that's why I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sure this has an impact on, but maybe not the sole reason for the reason we're seeing all of this shortage and supply issues here. But of course, it has its own contribution level to it. So I mean, if this has been huge contributions and acquisitions all of a sudden, that'd be one thing. But they've had just a ton on hand. I'd also then worry about a little bit about being like at McAllen and anywhere in this region, if it's not being stored correctly, that could have issues. But it should probably be looked at.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Well, that stuff is expensive. I mean, a 28-ounce can, the cheapest stuff on the Amazon will run you about $18 a can. And for people that are on a fixed income or are below the poverty line, that's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, like it kind of baffled me. First time I really paid attention to it and noticing like what's going on with the supply even prior to this, because I know there were people talking about just incidences of even it being too expensive to buy prior to all this supply issue. I took a look at it, and it's the way it's in some of the major retailers in town. Not going to name anyone specifically because a lot of them, frankly, are doing it. They have it not exactly behind lock and key, but behind these little plastic barriers that are attached to the shelf and hang about halfway down the shelf that you can then move them to get that at the can there. But they make this really, really loud clicking noise. That's the only way I can describe it. Essentially if you're going to move this to get the stuff out, everyone's going to know you're doing it. And then often also cameras pointed at them. So it's been kind of a point of contention before this point, it does seem like.
Right. Your previous caller, he mentioned something about pet food.
Yeah, saying that they got all these places in town that have cat food still, but we have baby formula. Wonder if we start running out of pet food. I think what he said, this call is a little garbled, I'll admit, said that he is worried about then if they're going to be blaming illegal cats and dogs, I think is what he said.
Well, just to let them know, Meow Mix is in short supply right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've been hearing that. I don't have a cat. I am actually allergic to cats. I have no issue with them, except they seem to have an issue with me in that way. So I don't even have any friends that have it, but I've heard similar things that there are certain amounts of supply of some of these specific brands that is going out as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the only thing that's the only brand my cat will eat anyway. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. I mean, these supply issues, I stand by exactly what I said, that they are going to probably be continuing for the foreseeable future because the system has taken supply side shocks we haven't seen in generations. I mean, practically wartime footing without there actually being, strict armed conflict within this hemisphere on the level that would cause such a thing. I mean, rations have happened before, but that was, of course, during like World War II. So they're having seen that kind of supply level shocks. I'm pretty confident we're at the same, if not totally surpassing that, one of the highest levels since that point here. So definitely has to be something focused on to get it done. And this kind of stop and start piecemeal effort may not be the solution, but we'll have to focus more on that here probably. John Browston saying, the federal government doesn't act quickly. Those pallets likely have been there for months. That would be my estimation as well, without having looked at the actual delivery dates on any of them here. Again, Catherine Codry still not appreciating the current administration on this here. Entitled to your opinion on it, but again, figuring out the solutions to it maybe slightly more interesting to me. But tell you what, we'll get into more about this after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTS. And we got calls on the line. We'll get to those and many more coming up after this. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Something that isn't in short supply, good grooming and the local availability of it here. And that's why I trust every hair on my head to Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. It's all in the name there, combining the traditional arts of barbering with some of the best services you'd want out of your favorite salon, and again, even spa there, because they really mean to be full service and have you treated like a king for a day. So with Father's Day coming up, I know we just had the big day for Mother's Day. That is certainly important in its own right, but don't forget Dad in this whole process. Get him what he really wants, a great experience there at Gentleman's Republic. Again, I go there because I've been, going to them for years now. Even had my bachelor party there because that's the level of service and quality that they have. Expert beard and hair styling. Get you looking exactly the way you want to and keep you looking good, feeling confident in yourself with a lot of more uncovered faces, shall we say, making sure that you've kept it up and not letting it grow too wild can be important for you, particularly as we're getting out and about more. I know I am, and so that's why I appreciate it. You can give them a call, schedule your next appointment, get it on this calendar for you right now, 915-532-3000, 915-532-3000, the number to call there, or find them online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We'll start with heavy congestion on Border Highway at South Zaragoza. No accidents there. All the lanes are open. It's just heavy congestion. Gateway Boulevard southbound at Cassidy, an injury accident. North Loop Drive eastbound at Zaragoza, another crash. And police are working an injury accident in Zaragoza at Saul Kleinfeld Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's $1,000 in your hand.
$1,000. $1,000.
No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
$1,000 in your hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Ride out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Chances are you're jamming in your car right now. And since Liberty Mutual customizes car insurance, so you only pay for what you need, Limu and I are going to show you some safe car dance moves. Hit it. Everybody, check your blind spots real quick. Now hands on the wheel. Put them 10 and 2 and move your head like a bird do. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
If you have a small business, Staples has your sign.
Banners for my bakery?
Staples has your sign.
Oh, posters for my new pet store.
Floor decals for a pharmacy.
Every day, Staples associates help every kind of small business create bold signs to make big impressions. And now get $10 off custom signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. This is your sign, so print it big at Staples. N72. Visit staplesconnect.com/thisisyoursign for details.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app. Also, the social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of comments coming in there. Ed Glor, Kathy Codry, John Brazelton, Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, RJ, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. Ed Glor pointing out about anything that might be stuck in warehouses right now with baby formula. No extra charge for the rats in the warehouse. See, that would be the concern I would have, at least part of this, of releasing that supply. Like if we're talking like a true like strategic formula supply level of holdings here, sure, but otherwise, well, see what is actually in case, because sure, a pallet or two may seem like a lot for an individual person, but out on the supply, actual like general markets, we'll see if anything more actually comes out of that here. But Catherine Coulter, rather correctly pointing out, to my understanding, that China produces the majority of the baby formula for America. I mean, there are consequences for offshoring and just putting out everywhere else your supply and not controlling it. I mean, to my understanding, even further, delving back into history, as I often focus on those things, that the reason we had evaporated milk and those kind of things was essentially to ensure the supply back before formula became really what it was. RJ pointing out that in terms of formula, that his family used brandy in theirs. Well, hope it worked out for you and you have as many brain cells as you're due, shall we say. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines right now. Again, the number to call if you want to do it that way and chime in on the show, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Harry on the east side here with us right now. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Hey, hello, El Paso. I love you guys, particularly Andrew, Raul, and Barbara. Let me make a comment regarding that. Raul is the poster boy for free speech. He should be allowed to express his opinions, and he makes a good argument, whether you agree with him or not. We all understand that he has no love for Donald Trump, and I equally have no love for Joe Biden. I mean, it's a workout in progression. And one thing I'd like to say about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, neither one of these individuals caused the COVID. They did not cause it. So there's enough blame to go around for that. That's for sure. Now, to my point, Andrew, I talked to a lot of people during the week in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kansas, Minnesota, New Jersey, for particular reasons. And every state or every individual that I speak to is fascinated from the fact that I always let them know that I live in El Paso. And believe you me, they are interested in firsthand goings on at the border. And I certainly wouldn't be the person to provide that information. And again, you have to be careful what you say. But I'll tell you this, we should be crying. We should be crying with what's going on at the border. And like I said, folks, it's going to come back to get us all. It's going to come back to get us all.
Yeah, the management or lack thereof of these issues here. Again, I put all the credit and essentially none of the blame with, well, the people in our area, shall we say, those that are actually in the border sector, the regional administration of that, and particularly those, boots on the ground, so to speak. The ones that are actually, doing the work, going out, monitoring the crossings and dealing with all that, particularly the ones in the Santa Teresa, the Anapra, around the base of Mount Cristo Rey area. They have a lot of work doing with them, and if anything has come out, that they just don't have the resources and support they need. So I don't put much fault, if any, with them, but see them as very much needing a whole lot more support. But yeah, I mean, this is a federal issue when it comes down to, well, those individuals specifically, them being, federal agents and officers with this. If there's not the willpower or just political will in general to do anything about it, which seems to have not particularly materialized under this administration or even this session of Congress, probably will have some impact on that next one. I still fully expect that even if other political issues are coming to the forefront or going to be trying to be pushed further to the forefront, I know that a lot of local voters will probably be keeping that very well in mind as they head to the ballot box.
Well, when your leaders at the top are causing the problem, there's very little that the individual can do. Like I had said previously, Andrew, we get one vote every 4 years, and you hope you get the right guy in. And we didn't get the right guy in for whatever reason. So, it's only going to have to get better.
Well, I hope that people, if they find, again, Casey Kasem, the way he said it sticks a lot in my mind. I need to find his actual quote. I heard it one time on one of his rebroadcasts from like the 70s of Top 40 here of, if you think things could be better, make sure you're registered to vote right now. Because I find that very influential, thinking that if you're mad about things, as much as it may have seemed cathartic in the old movie, that I'm mad as hell and not going to take it anymore, screaming out your window, all that is catharsis. It's not actually action. It's not actually moving it forward. And the very basic, I will contend this till the day I die, the very basic thing you can do about that is voting. Very basic.
Amen, Andrew. Amen.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much for the point of the call. You have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, I think we got time to squeeze in one more quick one before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Missy on the line here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, what is this insane mush? Oh, my God, the world is ending. There's no baby formula. Good grief. Do you know what we did back here in Mesilla in 1850, 60, 70? We made our own pablum. It isn't hard. You get some stone ground oatmeal. You get some hominy grits if you have it. You add a little bit of sugar and mix it up to the particular consistency. The kids loved it. Now, what is this thing? Oh, my God, there's the end of the world. What? Nobody can figure out how to do stuff the way they're supposed to? They got to go modern Walmart or whatever the heck it is? How stupid is that? What's going on with America that you can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps and figure out what the heck to do before you go into a corner and fall down on your hands and knees and cry like a little baby? It's absolutely stupid. What do you think of that?
I mean, I get what you're saying, that people used to, of course, make do. I mean, formula is not something that has been around it's been around for generations now, which is, I think, the real problem here. But of course, previous generations, pioneers, all that good stuff, didn't have this, but there were other systems in place. They had other things. People knew how to make that stuff. I mean, the fact that people are now having to, out of scratch, try to figure out what they can make, that's, I think, the real issue here. Because if they were used to it, this wouldn't be an issue, but people have, of course, been used to, then relied on the supply that has existed. I mean, just about anything. I mean, sure, you pick a product that is in your favorite big box or, mega grocery store, and odds are, if it's not like basically cornmeal, it didn't exist 100 years ago. But we've come to rely on that. So it's not that it's impossible to exist without it. It's that having the rug pulled out from under you, if you've built a, whole house of cards on top of it, you're going to have issues, at least in the short term.
Well, let me just say this one thing. As an American 80 years old, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's how the people survive. This nonsense about getting wishy-washy and wussy about this thing, because there's no formula. It's not hard to boil up some oatmeal and some hominy grits and add a little bit of brown sugar. Good grief. What is the matter with America today? That's what I want to know.
I mean, again, it's a fair point to say that there are ways around it. But again, I really feel for those that have no choice in this matter and those that may have, been relying on a specific special supply. That's why, among other things, it may be fast-tracked that Abbott plant to make those specific dietary requirements, because let's also just face it, there are a whole lot more people alive today than would have been back in that era because of the advancements in technology that we've seen, but it also, in a lot of the senses, requires more support than in the long run. So just to say, well, we may do back then, that's also the reason people used to have, 15, 20 kids, because they'd lose a whole bunch of them, which we now, in the modern standpoint, we would consider that an absolute tragedy. So that's just my idea on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're spot on. That's it. You're right. But, gee, I don't like it.
Okay, I'll agree with you entirely on that point, that it's a bad situation here. But, thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one.
Okay, bye.
All right. We'll take more calls on the line here after we take that next break right now. I know we got a lot of people wanting to chime in on this, and we'll get to all that we can. Just got to take that next break right now. Yes, some very interesting points being made over on the comment section. Again, all that and more coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. 4 people suffered minor injuries after a car slammed into a beauty salon in West El Paso this morning. The incident happened at Extreme Salon located at 5200 North Mesa Street at about 10:30. Officials said a woman in her 80s lost consciousness and drove into the business. She was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. A second woman in her 40s who was inside the salon was also taken to the hospital with minor injuries. 2 additional people were taken to hospitals with minor injuries for checkups. And a nationwide shortage of baby formula caused by supply chain bottlenecks, recalls, and the shutdown of a factory has forced parents to go from store to store hoping to find stocked shelves to feed their babies. The formula company Abbott said today a main plant could reopen in 2 weeks if it receives FDA approval. However, it would take at least 6 to 8 weeks for more product to make it to grocery stores and pharmacies. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Most of your El Paso freeways look pretty good right now. I-10 eastbound from the Loop to the 54 Patriot, 5-minute delays. Gateway Boulevard southbound at Cassidy, an injury accident. Heavy congestion at the Border Highway and South Zaragoza Road. No major accidents, just a lot of slow traffic. North Loop Drive eastbound at Zaragoza, a crash there. And Zaragoza at Saul Kleinfeld, police on the scene of an accident. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After the clouds cleared, temperatures were a bit closer to normal as they climbed into the lower 90s earlier today. Expect mostly clear skies overhead tonight as the breeze settles and temperatures dropping into the middle to upper 50s by early Friday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about trading in these gusty winds for unseasonably hot weather, plus when we could see our first triple-digit day of the year. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples offers tech solutions and accessories for learners, small business, and remote workers too. Right now, Apple AirPods Pro are only $199. You save $50. Offer ends 5/14 while supplies last. Limit 2. Explore the latest tech solutions at Staples, the working and learning store.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton. And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess With Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean. So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads. It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free. Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, souvenirs, gifts, and decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson podcast all week, the repairman who revealed the Hunter Biden laptop story is now suing Adam Schiff, CNN, Politico, and others. And will he win? We're going to tell his story. Download the Ben Ferguson podcast now.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson podcast.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. A lot of ways to get involved with the program if you so choose to. Of course, you're sat back, relaxing, and enjoying the program. You're welcome to do so, but we do have that phone line open right now if you wanted to chime in yourself. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in here as well. Catherine Codry, James Ratcliffe, Flaco Jimenez, Ed Clore, Kevin Williams, I didn't say that already. Michael Armstead letting us know what he thinks about previous callers being an eyewitness to the history of the 1860s here. Kevin Williams also pointing out, do you know how many babies died in 1840 before formula? I mean, there are some reasonable things to discuss here. But again, we'll get to a whole lot more of that. Also dropping those likes and reactions, which we do appreciate. Robbie Flores, Calvin Williams, Flaco Jimenez, and Monica Cervantes just helps with all the things that we do here on the program. Some of the other questions and comments coming in here. RJ saying that supply chains will be fine. It's not like they have a bunch of containers stuck or anything. And someone else, Catherine Codry, pointing out that Long Beach Harbor Terminal still has a major problem with cargo ships waiting. Just careful of the maps if you're looking at those. I've seen some on social media that I've looked into on my own, saying like, oh, there's so much backup here. It helps to look into it on your own. Let's just say that, because some of the times the filters they're using on these otherwise free ship mapping services, probably not a phrase, but best thing we can come up with at the moment, is that they might be including like fishing vessels, pleasure craft, other like just commercial things. So just kind of check your sources on that kind of thing, because people are trying to make their own points out of it here. James Ratcliffe asked me a direct question. What do I think? Oops, just moved on me here. What do I think of Biden and our Congress selling the nation off to the World Economic Forum, WEF, if I'm reading your acronym there right? We've had similar conversations about that, their impact. I mean, the whole concept of you'll own nothing and be happy with it. I guess just in general, I don't buy it. And I think a whole lot more people don't buy it, that if they're going to be told that, oh, no, you totally want this, they're going to say, hell no, I don't want that. But to that point, I think will be a subset of the population, how big, I don't have a great sense of, that would think, oh, no, that'll be great. You ever saw the kind of off-the-wall movie, Sorry to Bother You, that was about, started out being about call centers and exploitation in it, ended up being about, well, let's just say mildly sci-fi. No spoilers here, but one of the subplots was that there were people who were, for guaranteed lifetime employment, room and board, they were willing to essentially sell themselves into slavery, like modern day indentured servitude kind of concept. It was kind of a background issue that becomes more important during the progress of the movie, but I don't see that as necessarily being completely impossible. I think there is a subset that would think, oh, being taken care of, and I just, have to work until I die. Probably don't think about that last part, but, I think there's a subset of people that will totally agree with that. I completely don't understand that whole standpoint and idea, but I think that, okay, maybe I'm optimistic in this way. I think it's important to talk about it, sure, and the issues that come up with it, but I think that anyone that has their right mind really is going to say, thanks, but no thanks, and probably much more stronger language there. RJ saying that calling it economic war has been declared. I mean, kind of a war footing does seem to be similar where we are. I will agree here, but let's go back to those phone lines right now. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just three kind of unrelated comments. One was the baby food. Something to keep in mind is I think sometimes people are going to look towards an official source trying to tell them exactly what to do to make sure they don't make any mistakes. And that's a reasonable thing to do if you think about it. If a large portion of the population is going to be doing kind of home baby food, I guess you could say, it's not going to be as pristine as something that's going to be coming from, a place that has all that testing and making all the regulations. So, you will find a certain percentage of kids who will have some adverse effects, and you'll not most of them, but you'll have some of those situations. And if you're a doctor or an official source, are you going to be the one who tells people you should do this and this and this, and then a large number of people do it, and then you have a certain percentage of them have bad effects? So official sources, doctors aren't really going to be volunteering that information because they're maybe liable.
Yeah, that's a decent point to be made. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing. When it comes to the supply chain, I think all of us should be very thankful that we do have some red states that open things up sooner than a lot of other states, and that kind of got our economy moving, and they were able to move some into Florida rather than California, and we should be thankful for that, because the supply chain issues, inflation, was basically caused by, of course, the pandemic, but how we responded to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And the inflation was caused by too many dollars chasing too few goods. If you shut everything down, you shut down our economy, then you're going to have fewer services, fewer goods. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is printing all the money that they printed and flooding the economy with cash. So you have too much money chasing those few too goods. And then, of course, you've got the energy where we were ramping up 2019, 2018, we're ramping up our domestic energy supply, and the brakes got put on that, you know, for a few different reasons. One was the pandemic kind of slowed down demand, but also just these ESG scores are going to be coming into play. They're going to give you a low score if you do any business with anyone who's financing for fossil fuels. So banks aren't going to even want to front the money for any of these fossil fuel projects because you're going to lose access to financial services if you have a lower ESG score. And then my final comment, again, I said I had unrelated things, is I think the abortion issue isn't going to change abortion in this country as much as people think, because states are always doing a little bit different rules. And I wouldn't be surprised, you know, most of the abortions happen before those 6 to 8 weeks or whatever limits they're putting on it anyway. So most of those abortions are going to happen before that time frame anyways. There's only a small percentage that are later term abortions. And then don't be surprised if right here on the border of Texas and New Mexico, just on the New Mexico side, you might see a Planned Parenthood or, you know, one of those things, you know, right there on the border. And anyone in El Paso who passes that time limit is just going to cross the border, and it's still going to happen. So don't expect things to change dramatically if they do end up overturning Roe versus Wade.
I mean, I think that, the state-by-state basis, I know that Texas does have one of those trigger laws confirmed the other day about then moving even beyond that, 6-week time frame you mentioned there. So I think states like Texas, a lot of other southern states as well, traditional southern states have very similar kind of laws on the books here that would completely remove it, some with exceptions, some with not. I haven't confirmed that part of Texas's law. I just know it does exist. I have to find the exact text of it here. So I think that will be a purpose. But as it was actually even brought up in previous Supreme Court cases, no, it was a while back, because I do remember a specific quote from late Justice Ginsburg about, women in El Paso traveling to New Mexico as a issue with a previous Texas law. So I'm sure that will continue to play a part, much like you said.
Yeah, and if there are restrictions that seem maybe too much, I think a lot of Americans are kind of on the same page. A lot of Americans do feel that there are situations that, you know, are reasonable to have an abortion, and a lot of Americans are not too happy about the idea of healthy pregnancies being terminated in the third term. So I think we, the people, need to kind of talk to each other and get on the same page and understand where each side is coming from and come up with a compromise so that our state, if this does go through, our state should have reasonable, common sense laws that take in consideration the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of the child as well as the mother. And we should talk about it and work things through. Absolutely. I fully expect that to be a decent portion of the upcoming Texas legislative session. Again, already full swing the talks about it already, it does seem, even if it doesn't start until, start of next year. Thanks, Andrew. All right, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. Let's get to one more here before we hit that next break. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Frankie from ASEA, and he's asking the wrong question. He shouldn't be asking what's wrong with Americans. He should be asking what's wrong with this government that is causing so much hostility and so much fear and so much division in our country. Americans, it's our tax dollar that's being used by the federal government to purchase whatever they're purchasing for illegal immigrants, because the federal government does not create jobs that they can use their own profits to purchase that and do whatever they want to do with it. It's our tax dollar that's funding that. Just like our tax dollar is funding everything they're doing at the border, these soft-sided buildings so that they can house more illegal immigrants. All that is our tax dollar. So the question is, why is this administration putting Americans last and everybody before us? What, did we not earn what our taxes? We earn our paycheck. We send a portion of it to Washington, and they use it at their discretion. And now they're using it to totally disregard our rights. So it's like we're spinning our wheels, and he wants us to, and he's asking what's wrong with Americans. Well, what's wrong with Americans is we don't like working hard, sending our tax dollars to Washington, and then being set to the back. We don't like our country imploding because of this administration. We don't like them doing things, having policies in place that create more expense at the store, at the gas pump. It's our earned money that they're using. And when he says, why do America should get tough? We are tough. We get tough. Lawsuits are filed against the administration. They're using our tax dollars to fight us, and then they disregard the court rulings. They totally turn their head away from whatever the Supreme Court says, and that's what this administration does. So why can Americans have any confidence that what's happening in Washington is just? Because it's not. And as an American citizen, I don't want to be disregarded when they're using my tax dollars to fund the projects that they want. And then we are the people who are inhumane and ungrateful, and that is so far from the truth. We're the ones who give more. We're such a generous country, but we're using our generosity. This administration, should I say, is using our generosity to implode and destroy our country. And we're helpless under this administration because no matter what you do, they don't listen. I mean, the Supreme Court says you have to keep, now they extended the Title 42, I understand. There's a longer period of time before they can lift it. I'm hoping they don't, but they're already doing it. We heard the busloads that they're bringing in from Mexico. Why should our children, our grandchildren, our babies be put to the back and say, well, go make your own formula? Wait a minute, it's my tax dollar that paid for the formula that the government just took away from my household, from my grandchild. That's not saying we should have trust in the government, and that's not saying what's wrong with America. That all says what's wrong with our government. It's just, and now I understand the DOJ is stepping into the waters of immigration with Customs Border Patrol. The questions here are what's wrong with our government, because every issue that we deal with, the government has caused it. We've given them all the opportunities they have and the money they need to do the right thing for America, and they can't seem to get on the path to where they consider America a good place. Every week, something else happens with this administration to set us back. We don't move forward. Since they've been in office with Biden, this country has not moved forward. And now they're talking about lifting the tariffs on China. What are they doing? They took away President Trump's China initiative. They're not penalizing or arresting anybody who is stealing our intellectual property.
Yeah, and that's a real serious problem and has been one for years now. They didn't even start under the last administration or the one before it. The whole way the system Chinese government set up, basically it's institutionalized stealing of secrets was, been going on ever since. Really want to go back to Nixon, probably not too far after that, essentially, in the opening up of China. But that's a whole other subject here. But simply put, I find it that maybe in some cases there's been recovery, if not advancement, under this administration. But the way I think about it is this, that Americans pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, these companies that make this formula, again, just case in point here, was not created by the government. It wasn't something provided by them. It's something that Americans did, saw, and achieved on their own, and that made it for the other Americans, the capitalist system in action, essentially. So to say that, it's gone away, and so you're not tough enough anymore, we solved that problem. It was. And now that we got further issues, we got to delve back into it. But then saying, therefore, you're weak to do it, I definitely don't agree with it on that point here. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to delve into a little bit further on these issues, tell you what we got coming up for you on the show here. And, just keep on going on talking about the Talk El Paso here. So stay tuned for more here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso Fire is responding to an injury accident, Border Highway eastbound at Fonseca. The crash is on the Fonseca Drive on-ramp to the eastbound Border Highway. Border Highway westbound at Padres, a stalled vehicles blocking the left shoulder. Yandel Drive at Piedras, an injury accident there. You could take Missouri or Copia Street as alternates. And an injury accident in Zaragoza at Saul Kleinfeld Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
From the host of the hit true crime podcast Dr. Death and Bad Batch comes a brand new unbelievable story. Sympathy Pains investigates the shocking tale of one woman, a former nurse, who spent nearly 20 years faking illnesses and tragedies until her victims confronted her on national television.
Sarah DeLashmit told people she had leukemia or muscular dystrophy, even Ebola. She knew enough to be convincing, but it was all a lie.
Listen to Sympathy Pains on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Comfort Keepers Las Cruces is now hiring. Call 575-521-4400.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we've talked about here today, and we've got a lot more coming for you in, well, more of our shows here. Of course, we got Friday coming up. Free for All Friday will be on deck, so if you want to get your pound 250 calls in or your talkback messages to the iHeartRadio app in now ahead of that, would be a good time for it, because we'll, of course, be having all of the discussion of what we had, everything going on, open lines throughout the program there tomorrow. Here, we're going to squeeze in one more quick call here before we end the day here today, because I'm waiting patiently in the line here. We do have Raul in the Northeast here with us. Raul, we got about a minute.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Barbara, and you fellow Trumpers. Let me clue you in. Had your Messiah's coup been successful and Trump was a dictator, inflation would be the same or worse. Gas prices would be the same because presidents don't control oil prices, and the supply of baby formula would still be a problem because they don't control that either. One difference is that Trump would have taken Putin's side. That's why Putin wanted him reelected. Government and economic performance historically has been twice as good under Democrats as it has been under Republicans. And deficits and bigger increases in the national debt have occurred at a greater rate under Republicans than they do under Democrats. Now, El Paso Times headline, only 18% of El Paso students performed at grade level in 2021 in reading and math, compared to 37% in 2019. I never wanted kids, and so I didn't have any. And so should I be exempt from paying school taxes? How about that? I heard it on the station. I think I heard it on the Buck and Clay show. Republicans want to end public schools and replace them with school vouchers, and they attack teachers and teachers union all the time. They got a war going on against education. And I think I know a little bit about education. My mother having been a teacher and having cousins who have been or are teachers. I almost went into education myself one time and got certified as a social studies teacher.
I mean, interesting points you're making there, but we'll have to get more into that here on a future program because we're out of time here for this one. Interesting analysis you give about, administration over administration. Go ahead and consider that a setup for tomorrow here, because Free for All Friday is on deck with all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. So open lines throughout the show here. So thanks for the point and call. We'll have to do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles and on the road. Have a great evening, y'all. See you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
On the border highway eastbound at Fonseca, an injury accident. Watch for slow traffic on the 10 eastbound from Reynolds to Geronimo. It's about a 5-minute delay. Yandell and Piedras, an injury accident there. Copia Street or Missouri could be an alternate for you. And Zaragoza at Saw Kleinfeld. Police on the scene of an injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
My mom turned 65 last year, and let me tell you, helping her get her Medicare benefits squared away was not easy. She had so many choices for coverage, and most agents she spoke with just left her feeling overwhelmed and confused. She tried to do some research on her own, but Mom isn't the most tech-savvy person out there, so it was hard for her to make sense of the provider websites and paperwork. When she asked me for help, I found Chapter, and they made both of our lives so much easier. They compare thousands of Medicare plans and help seniors choose the best plan for their needs. Mom spoke to one of their advisors, and she walked her through every step of the process. Now she's on a great plan, and we both can relax. And the best part? Chapter was 100% free.
If you or your loved one wants to maximize their Medicare benefits.
News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Members of the House are marking the grim milestone of 1 million COVID deaths in the U.S. More than 24 representatives gathered on the Capitol steps for a moment of silence. In earlier remarks, President Biden called it a tragic milestone. Republicans are angry at the federal government for sending baby formula to the Texas border to feed illegal immigrants at a time when store shelves are bare. Congresswoman Kat Kamak of Florida posted photos on her Facebook page.
This is another example of the America Last agenda that the Biden administration continues to perpetuate.
She said the photo showing pallets of baby formula came from a processing center in the Texas border town of McAllen. Governor Greg Abbott has put out a statement saying that American children